So we all have ups and downs in our practice, don't we? Duh. Um, and so having ups and downs is quite normal and natural. How we handle the ups and downs is what is really important, yeah? Because first we have to discriminate between big ups and downs and little ones. When it's just little things that we're not happy with ourselves about, try and correct them, but they're not, a huge, enormous thing that's upsetting our mind forever. Okay. But so I want to talk about the big ups and downs, not the I got irritated at somebody this morning up and down. Okay. But the bigger kind of ups and downs that really plague our mind for a period of time. And so the the there's different ways that people handle these. One person says, "Oh yeah, up and down. I'm really caught in this negative kind of habit, and my mind is like really out of control. But I really can't push myself, and maybe I just have to leave it for the time being and let this, you know, work work its way out." Or maybe we have a whole we can give a whole description, a great intellectual description of our up and down. I have these afflictions which arose from these causes, which go to this, and this creates, these are the negative karmas. Very good mapped out intellectual understanding. But then kind of like somebody who's a drug addict. They can give you their whole thing, and I'm addicted to this, and for these reasons, and this is the problem I have, and na na na. But you know, I'm in this situation, and it's just really hard to stop, and I don't really have all the conditions to stop, and it's not that bad, is it really? Uh, and I'll just, let it ride for a while, and be compassionate with myself, and anyway, if I stop being a drug addict right away, all the other people I take drugs with will be really upset, and that isn't any good for them. So, I know it's unhealthy to hang around with these people who are addicts, but I don't want to upset them, and I'll just work on it slowly, and eventually kind of it'll get worked out. So that's one person. Then there's another person who says, "Boy, I'm going up and down. And the root of this is in my mind. It has nothing to do with the external situation, what other people are saying, what other people are doing. It has to do with how I am conceptualizing the situation. And due to my conceptualizations, what kind of emotions are arising in my mind. And so this is, something that I need to work with inside myself, whether other people agree or don't agree or whatever. It's like I have to solve this inside myself and get over this, because if I don't do something with my crazy mind, this is just going to keep going on and on and on and on and on. So it's not like that person saying I have to be over it by Tuesday, but they really want to overcome that problem. They really want to let go of whatever it is they're holding on to. The first person doesn't really want to let go. Yeah, deep inside, they don't really want to. Yeah, and so that's if when you get in that state where you don't really want to change, or maybe intellectually you want to change, but in here you don't really. I think that's when we get really stuck. Yeah. when we're kind of saying, oh, I want to change, but we really don't want to. Yeah. So that's kind of the first person. Second person really wants to. They know it's going to take effort. Yeah. And they aren't making up excuses for why it's not being done. Okay? So it's just to see, and there's probably many others between these two things. I mean, I put out quite stark things, but there's probably many other varieties of dealing with things. And so just to look at, when I have a problem and when my mind's going up and down, how do I deal with it? Do I really want to change? Or do I have to be frank and I don't really want to change? Yeah. I think we need to have that level of honesty with ourselves. Yeah. And yeah.
So let's say we conclude that deep down we don't really want to change, but the wisdom part of us knows we should change and be much better in the long run. So is it a matter of just trying to meditate over and over on the reasons why change is good, and hopefully it will trickle down at some point?
So you're saying inside, deep down, you don't really want to change.
Well, there's a part,
but intellectually, you should.
Yes.
You should, and you ought to, and you're supposed to, and...
Yeah, so what do you do? I mean, you can't just give up, especially if it's an affliction.
Well, you have to deal with where you're at, And if you really want to change, then you get into meditating on the defects of the state that you're in, and you really go about doing those meditations and changing. Yeah. And it takes time, but you work at it in a consistent way. Yeah. In other words, you overcome the mind that doesn't really want to change. But if you really don't want to change, then go do what you need to do. Yeah. Nobody else can make you change. And if you don't really want to change, then, what is there? Then keep going to teachings. That always puts a good imprint on your mind. And maybe after some time, a few months, a few years, a few lifetimes, whatever, then, it'll fall together and you'll say, oh, I do want to change. Yeah. But if inside you're really holding quite strongly to, this is my identity and this is too scary for me to change. And besides, I like this identity. Then go do what you need to do and live a virtuous life as much as you can. What else can I say?
I think that from personal experience, it can be easy just to stop when you think you intellectually understand what's going on, and then kind of stop there and then wonder why things aren't changing when you haven't gone a step further to actually really put effort into applying the antidotes.
Yeah.
And maybe fear or anxiety or just habitual energy holds you back from progressing. And I think this might come from the way I've been schooled of just understand and that's enough. Like just at school, like just learn this, get it, understand the points and that's it. Whereas with the Dharma, it doesn't work that way. It has to be more, you have to be more engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we do have to be more engaged. And you're right, we may have a lot of habits, a lot of conditioning. Yeah. But you see, those habits and that conditioning that are keeping us from changing are some of the things that we have to change. So then we have to ask ourselves, do I want to change that old habit and conditioning? Yeah. Do I want to change that? Or do I see it as really not such a problem at all?
I think one of the things that I've become more aware of is that the screenwriter inside of me who tells the story on why I'm totally justified to being afflicted has got to be told, well, fake news. Erroneous. The whole idea that an afflictive state of mind is fake news is erroneous. And that for me to understand that the story I'm telling myself is the cause for my affliction, not the behavior of some other sentient being outside myself, the cause of my affliction. Mm-hmm. So learning how to discern between erroneous and what's actually happening has been, I just love my stories. You know, there's something about the drama of samsara that keeps the identity moving, that keeps the I going, that keeps the body feeling like it's alive, and that there's a sense of self. Yeah. And to understand that by taking the erroneous storyline out, it doesn't mean that you become any more like real. I mean, you become truer to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, there's this idea of deconstructing some self that just is not worth it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the drama. It's not worth the heartache.
Yeah.
But to realize that when you've said that a number of times, saying of when you have an affliction in your mind, know that you have an erroneous conception going on.
Yeah.
And that has been extremely helpful lately as I'm starting to get underneath these core root beliefs that I have, limited beliefs. It's really helpful.
Yeah, because as long as you're holding on to those beliefs, then you don't really want to change. Yeah. Or sometimes you recognize the beliefs, but you still don't want to really change.
The other thing that's coming to mind is we have to be so selective about the situations we put ourselves in, like even the place of work. And I remember when I first started teaching, I was very impressionable about the culture of the staff and what everyone else there held to be important. And at one point, it was just shocking. I was hanging out with this one woman, and she swore a lot. So within a short period of time, I was swearing a lot. And so, you know, what the group of people held as important or valuable or even ethical, I just sort of drifted into. Mm-hmm. And it was shocking. Looking back, it's even more shocking.
Yeah.
But then when you're in a virtuous environment, again, it's just the support is beyond what I think we often can grok.
Yeah.
For me, it seems like there is two very strong emotions or afflictions playing. One is the main affliction that I'm trying to work with, and the other one is the fear. So there is a fear to let go of an identity. I think is very much similar to what Venerable Semke was talking about, in that you know, it's like if I let go of that identity, what is left? It's almost like if you erase that, then there is nothing there. It's like what is there to hold on to? What is there to stand on? So it's not just like the main affliction, the attachment, but it's the fear that goes along with that as well. That it's that can be so overwhelming.
Yeah, that's very true, and that's why we need to really understand why holding on to those old assumptions, why holding on to those identities, why holding on to those stories cause us suffering. Because if we just stop with, it's scary to change, but we have to go beyond that and say, but this stuff that I'm stuck in is what's really causing me misery. It's not the change that's going to cause me misery. It's the stuff I'm stuck in that's causing me misery. Yeah? But as long as we believe it's the change that's causing us misery, then the fear is immobilizing us, and we won't change.
I have been in the same situation, and what I've found helpful is the change is scary, but I've tried to take some time and imagine what it would be like to be on the other side of that change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been very helpful, because sometimes it's a lot better than where I am right now. and it motivates,
Yes.
gets you going.
Yeah, that's a good idea, to imagine what it would feel like to get over whatever it is that's holding you back. What would that feel like? If I changed, what would my life be like? What would my mind be like? How good it would feel. Yeah? And then that gives us more courage to go ahead and do it. Yeah. But when we just, are grasping so strongly to the little straws of pleasure that we have now, or we're immobilized by guilt and fear, then, we're pretty stuck.
I think too, I mean, for me, somehow knowing my course, knowing where I'm going, what's my reason for being in life, or where's my refuge?
Yeah.
Like that, even when I know I'm stuck and I'm moving slowly, if I can stay in touch with where am I going, what's the point of all this?
Yeah.
Then if it's slow or a fast movement, it doesn't really matter. I know where I'm headed. If I lose that, then I'm just in a morass of fear and cross
Doubt
things.
and-
And doubt, right? And grasping whatever I can hang on to because I don't know where I am. But if I feel like in my life, many times, if I can get to that, what's the bottom line reason for being here?
Right.
What am I about? And I have to take refuge in that.
Right.
Then the change will come as I can make it happen.
Yeah. And I mean, that's when you really see what taking refuge means. That taking refuge means that you're very clear about the direction of your life, where you want to go. Yeah. When you're in this thing, but I should, but I can't, but really for the benefit of others, I should keep on doing, but I don't know, that's not working. It's very scary to change. Then you really aren't, where's your refuge? I haven't heard the word Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha once in all of that chatter. Or purpose of my life. That phrase is long-term purpose of my life. Short-term purpose, yeah, I can shoot up. That's a good, yeah, the purpose of my life, self-medicate. I'm not talking about that kind of purpose, yeah. But really knowing, deep underneath what we really want to do. And then being true to that, yeah, not going back on it. That's why they say practicing Dharma is swimming upstream.
When you were speaking, it reminded me of when I get stuck in that, what I often think of is when Kinzer Jampa Tekchok was here and he said, it's not who you are that's important, because we get caught up in these identities, and that's where I think I would run into problems with when you've made your identities these things that now you're letting go of, then you're like in free fall for a while. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of because there's another identity you're trying to grab onto, right? So he said it's not, I didn't take it that way before, but now I take it like it's not who you are, it's what you can do with this life. So I think I get caught up in some kind of identity trip. And for a long time here, I was in between this thing of learning really what self-confidence is. And I think I had it really mixed up with a sense of identity of I can do this kind of, I have this profession, whatever it is, I'm a mother, whatever it is. And that isn't going to be stable. But to have a sense of self-confidence, and what would it be confidence in? I think I have to explore that for yourself. Mm-hmm. For me, it falls into what we're taking refuge in. And so then it comes back to, well, what is this life for? Like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And when I'm lost, it's when I'm stuck in the, what am I? Who's the me? Whereas really when I remember what he says, and I go, well, what is it I can be doing? And what's important is what I can do with this life. Mm-hmm. And then, you've told us, and I think this is helpful too when you're really stuck, is to take the 8 Mahayana precepts. Yeah. Do something very virtuous, even if it's just the 7-limb prayer. Something, create merit that will help you to dig your way out.
Right.
You have to have some kind of faith in the processes that we've been taught.
Yeah. And that's why purification and accumulation of merit are very important to do when we're stuck. You know, very important. Yeah, because it opens your heart and it tunes you back into your refuge.
Often you're so confused in that moment that this is when you should have that voice coming in your head of what your teachers have taught you and then follow it.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, we've been taught a lot, but we aren't, the mind isn't always listening, you know.
Or sometimes we listen and we can even say it, but we're not doing it.
I just wanted to resonate that I feel that the purification practices are so helpful because my self-centered mind is very articulate, intelligent, very like rational thinking, 10-page essay writing. And the only way to cut it is to go do something that's, you know, do a lot of prostrations, do a lot of mantra that doesn't engage the mind in the same afflicted way.
Yes.
I found that's been, it can take a break from that overthinking
Yeah.
and actually work with what's happening in a more
Inside.
physical or emotional level.
Yeah. Yeah. To get out of our head and our nice, neat ways of describing, you know. Affliction number 7 is related to an affliction number 8, which is, yeah, and like that. I guess it really struck me when you said, before, you know, that you were quite confused and you just went and did all these prostrations to the Buddha and made lots of prayers. And then that way your mind became clear, you know, because you can see, I mean, you're reconnecting with your refuge. And when you make lots of aspirational prayers, you're setting your mind in a certain direction. And so aspiration is meaning that you want to change. You know, you're asking for inspiration to help you change. But then, you know, when you're missing that aspiration, when you're immobilized by the fear or caught in the identity or whatever it is, yeah, then, yeah, like you said, you're not sure where you're going in your life. And water runs downhill, so we go with attachment.